What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on in NFL world? How you doing, division rivals? This is Steven Hyder with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. All right, guys, today's topic, listen, this is another of these draft profile videos. I want to talk about Jamie Newman. And boy, when you talk about big time throws, you talk about the deep vertical passes, dual threat quarterbacks, that power quarterback run, zone read, the option stuff, like riding that read, and he'll take it himself. Jamie Newman is another one of these quarterbacks in this 2021 class with this dual threat ability that he's pretty good, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. Some people may not know much about Jamie Newman because although you might hear the name Georgia associated with Jamie Newman, he never played a snap at Georgia. He primarily played at Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a small private school in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, guys. I coached and taught in Winston-Salem, guys. I've seen Jamie Newman play 4 times live. So this is a prospect I'm very familiar with, to say the least. Now, to start off with Jamie Newman, if we're defining the type of system he played in Wake Forest to begin with, a very boring and predictable one. It was not very good, to be honest, but they had pretty good playmakers there in Surratt and some of these guys that were coming out of that system there. And on top of that, guys, one thing I can tell you about the system is that it's a mid-developing system with vertical elements, right? You can see that play out in things such as Jamie Newman's time to throw, 2.67 seconds. So if you look at this as if it's a sliding scale of quarterbacks, guys, you got all the way to the far left, you got guys like, Trevor Lawrence and those type of dudes that are over there towards the middle in that almost 2.5 second range. You got your Mac Jones and those guys, right? And then you got your more 2.6s and 7s. So that's your guys like, your Jamie Newmans, that's your guys like Zach Wilson, those type of guys. Okay, so he's kind of right there in that middle area, leaning towards more of a vertical offense. Total time in pocket, 2.9 seconds. His time to sack, guys, it was not a very good offensive line there at Wake Forest, 3.15 seconds. The only really concerning stat you're going to see are, I think all these stats are on par with what you want to see from a guy like Jamie Newman. The only one that concerns me is that time to run being 5.44 seconds. What that tells me is that despite Jamie Newman being a dual threat quarterback, a quarterback that can play quarterback power, he can hit you with zone options and zone reads and stuff like that. Despite all that, he doesn't look to run. He doesn't look to run right off the bat, right? This is a guy that would probably prefer to go through his progressions, find something, before taking off. The one critique you can get to that, though, is that 5.44 seconds is a little too long to wait to run the football. You got to make that decision faster. So, kind of digging in deeper into getting a feel for the offense, guys, you can look at stats like the 2.5 second drop back mark. So how many throws is he throwing under 2.5 seconds? How many throws is he throwing above 2.5 seconds? So under 2.5 seconds, 161 attempts on the season, which was about 38.7%. And then when you look at above 2.5 seconds, 255 passing attempts on the year, which ranks about 61.3%. 60-40, guys, if you just narrow this down to a nice, even, pretty number here. 60-40 kind of long developing over 2.5 second plays to under that kind of, the quick outs and the screens and that in breaking routes like slants. On the topic of in breaking routes, before we get too deep into his conversation here, I want to point out one thing about Jamie Newman, which is the 2 games I really went to go break down. Like I said, I've seen this guy play live a lot, guys, but 2 games I broke down from a scouting standpoint, which was UNC and Boston College. I got to tell you guys, I thought between the hash marks, I thought Jamie Newman was very good. Hitting those slant routes, in-breaking routes, like dig routes, stuff like that. I thought Jamie Newman was really good throwing the ball in between those hash marks. He's got a really, really strong arm. I think where Jamie Newman, it gets complex talking about him is when we look at the deep ball. So just keep this in mind when it comes to the deep ball. Jamie Newman was rated very highly by the NFL on his deep ball. 113.7. Guys, he was definitely up there with, I'll just give you some guys from this year's draft class. He's up there with the Justin Fields, right, and the Ian Books. He's up there with, guys like Brady White and Sam Ehlinger. He's in that class, right? Guys from next year's draft class, right? He's not quite to Keaton Slovis's 120 plus rating, but he's right there with the Sam Howell from Carolina, which is another big prospect coming out of next year's draft. The year prior, so the 2020 draft, he's up there with guys like Jalen Hurts, with guys like Justin Herbert. He was up there really high with, not quite to Jake Luton and Joe Burrow type, but he's up high. So, I mean, he's rated very highly on the deep ball, and he's got a very powerful arm. It's the first thing I can tell you right off the bat, guys, is that this is a big-armed quarterback.
Fresh set of downs for Wake Forest. Shot deep. Surratt got it.
So, deep air targets, or deep air attempts, if you will, 71. Completions, 32. That works its way out to about a 45% completion rate. 1,159 yards off of that, guys. 13 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. 19.8% of deep balls completed, guys. They gave him an adjusted completion rate up to 50.7, which is pretty good, guys. I will say that there was some nuance to his deep ball. So when he got himself in trouble with deep ball, throwing deep ball passes, there was one thing that I saw from his pocket mechanics that showed me that he could get himself in trouble here.
Have happened because of how long that mesh point was. Now Newman looking to throw, pressure coming.
That one thing, guys, is that he has a tendency to go a little too far towards the guards. So when you're throwing a deep ball, and this is especially true when you're throwing boundary side, guys, you want to kind of stay as in line to the center as you can, so that way you get that nice, good crease in the pocket and nothing is hindering your footwork. So that way you can get a full throwing motion, right? So you can get that full throwing motion in there. You can get those hips through the throw, and you can make a good, strong pass out there.
I like that. Oh, you're left behind. Another deep shot looking for Surratt.
Sometimes he would honestly get himself in trouble doing that. I caught that in the UNC tape. I caught that also inside of his Boston College tape. Like, he's got to get better at that, guys. That's just a small little tweak. It's not something that I would say, like, give up on a player about. Like, that's a pretty small thing to tweak for a quarterback, guys. This is a completely coachable situation. But definitely could see that. This guy, I got to tell you guys, when you talk about being physical and being tough and unrelentless, man, you talk about quarterback power plays and stuff like that, guys, like just straight up would overpower guys to get into the end zone at times.
2nd and 3, Jamie Newman on the run. Can pick up the first down, but not the...
And I got to be honest with you, I don't think his vision, his sight's not quite, like Jalen Hurts is a different animal, I think, when it comes to the feel and the read of the running stuff. I don't think Jalen Hurts is like an exceptional athlete in terms of the speed. He's an exceptional athlete, but I'm talking about the speed. I think it's more so he's quick twitch, and he's got really good vision as a runner, Jalen Hurts did. That was the one thing I broke down last year when I talked about Jalen Hurts. I was like, man, this guy's a runner is a different story than other guys. But when I look at Jamie Newman, this is a guy that I could see that if you're really committed to that type of offense, this is a guy that you can either develop to be your guy going forward, or he'd be a really good backup to a Lamar Jackson or, Jalen Hurts, a mobile quarterback, guys, a dual threat quarterback type. He would be any of those names you can plug in there. He would make a lot of sense as a long-term development or even a plug-and-play guy, to be honest with you. It just depends on the value the organization place on him, but I can see him playing that role, guys, no doubt about it. I can tell you that when you look at arm strength, like I said, the telltale marker to me, guys, if you watch my Sam Ehlinger breakdown, I said, look, I always look for far hash throws. This guy threw a lot of far hash throws. I mean, it was all over the film on Boston College. It was all over the film for, the UNC game. Like, he's got an arm, guys. I will say sometimes, like I said, like he can get himself in these condensed situations where he can't fully get into the throwing motion, and that can play a role and maybe take a little something off of his football. Although he still has such a strong arm, you can hardly tell it just by looking at it. You have to really focus on the pocket.
Was picked up. Newman on the outside.
And then sometimes I will say that his stride gets a little off. You can see his stride kind of get a little off. He's taller guy. He's like 6'4"-ish. He's in that area, 230-pounder. Like, sometimes that stride gets, the base gets a little too wide at times, I'll say, for my liking. But
DC backs off.
he can definitely rip the football, guys. He's got an arm. He can grip it and rip it with the best of them, guys. There's just no doubt about it. Kind of some final thoughts tying into what I see from this young man, like going forward. What does he need to do to become an established, kind of top tier quarterback in the NFL, like an eventual top 12 quarterback, franchise quarterback level guy, right? I don't think that, outside of like some of the pocket mechanic stuff that I'm talking about, I don't think that he was always bad at doing this. I think there were certainly plays you can go to and you can say like, oh, he did a pretty good job of manipulating safeties, and he threw a really pretty ball out there as a result of being able to manipulate that safety and get the pass in there. But I also think you can say the inverse, guys, to where there were at least two particular instances I can think of. One on the UNC game.
PN Plus starting this week. Jamie Newman hit as he throws, dangerous.
One of the Boston College game, guys, to where he did not read the safety well.
Another one set here. Newman over the top. Picked off.
And these are plays and these are mistakes you cannot make in the NFL, or they'll be the same exact result. They'll be an interception. You can't misjudge where the safety is in coverage. You've got to have that awareness out there, and that concerns me a little bit. Like he's got to get better vision when he's dealing with like a situation of high safety play. When he's got those high safeties, whether it's two safeties high, whether it's a single safety high like a cover 1 or a cover 3, as opposed to a cover 2, he's just got to know how to manipulate and move those safeties and know when not to make a throw. I think that kind of stood out to me a little bit about Jamie Newman, but guys, I got to tell you, all in all, I loved it. I saw some issues where we can squabble back and forth about small little things, right? There were definitely times, like there was one play in particular, I think it was the Boston College game, where it was quite clear he locked onto a first read. When that first read wasn't there, he immediately dropped his eyes and fled the pocket.
Newman. There's his own running back scrambling.
Yeah, I mean that's a bit of a one read kind of guy. Like, yeah, he's got to develop a little more. But just like any quarterback, guys, like there's instances of both of these things on film. What I'm talking about is consistency. I'm not saying that it's a huge problem. I'm just saying he needs to be more consistent with getting through NFL level progressions, and he's not always consistent with that. But I definitely saw times where he went through a full field read. Like, I thought he did a really good job shooting his hips in it, and this was in the Carolina game. But he kind of got himself off balance with his hitch. He was trying to get himself, like, when you hitch is when you're resetting yourself. He got himself off balance doing that, and he kind of sailed the ball a little bit on that one. But good job reading the field, going, right to left, left to right, that kind of ordeal. Like, that shows you a guy that can do a full field read. So,
and really, these defenders are not in bad position. That's not bad coverage by Trey Morrison.
There's instances of both of this stuff on his film, guys. Like, I'm aware of it. I see it. This is a guy you got to get in camp. You got to get, you get your quarterback coach to work with them and start getting them used to going through 3 and 4 read progressions. Like, it's something you work on with young guys. It's not something that normally happens like right away. Especially like, when you're already having a guy that you already know you're going to have to work with him a little bit on reading high safeties and where to go with the football in those situations. All in all, guys, like, we can look at some other, like, minute stats, if you will, here, but they tell you a little bit. Big time throws, 22 on the season, 5.9%. It's just about 6% of plays. I mean, he's a big play guy, right? Turnover worthy passes, he threw 11 on the year. Not turnovers, but turnover worthy passes. Passes he got away with, basically, guys. That worked out to about a 2.5% rate. That's not bad, guys. I mean, that's on par with what you get from guys like Mac Jones. It's on par with Kellen Mond. It's Kyle Trask. He's on par with those guys. Like, I'm not overly concerned about that. His average depth of target is impressive, guys, 11.1. He definitely was targeting guys at the mid to the vertical concepts. Like, I thought he was pretty good when you got him in the quick game, but I didn't see enough of it. Like I said, 60-40 is not a bad ratio, not a bad rate, but I'd like to see a little more quick game in the NFL from Jamie Newman, a little bit more sped up kind of process with him, but
smallest Power 5 school in the country in terms of enrollment. There's Sage.
Hey, I get why some of you guys have definitely been hitting me like, Gate, please break this guy down. I get why you like him. I see it. And look, this is coming from a guy who's biased. I'm an NC State guy. I can't stand Wake Forest. Like, if you're hearing me tell you that I think that there's something to Jamie Newman, and I'm not saying this is a guarantee to be an NFL starting quarterback, I'm saying that he has the tools and the traits to be one. Like, that's big praise, man, because I don't like Wake Forest, guys. There's no love lost here. I don't like them. Like, so that's my take on Jamie Newman. All right, guys, I'm about to sign off, so don't forget, if you want to support the channel, link is in the description below. You can buy me a cup of coffee, or you can simply just keep watching these videos, guys, because that means a great deal to me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. If you're not subscribed, please, consider subscribing. The likes and the comments, guys, that's how we communicate with YouTube and let the algorithm know that this is a community that talks back and forth, guys. All right, y'all. Peace. I'm out of here, and see you on the next video.